Heartwarming twist, doctor discovers coma patient saved his life and she's expecting their child. Jake Thompson tended to his patients with unwavering dedication, his warm smile brightening the grayest of days in Maplewood. The small-town physician adored his elderly patients, personally handing out his cell number like candy. Yet, behind his charming demeanor, he struggled under the weight of student loans and the towering expectations of his affluent family. He often daydreamed of grand accomplishments, a life filled with accolades and prestige, but reality had a way of grounding him at least until that fateful winter night. The chill of a sudden snowstorm hit him without warning as he drove home after an exhausting shift. The wind whipped wildly, transforming the familiar roads into a white blur. Panic settled in as snowflakes danced mockingly in front of his windshield. His hands gripped the steering wheel as he lost control. And then, darkness. Months later, Jake awoke in a hospital bed, disoriented and frail. A soft voice pierced through the haze. "You're safe, Dr. Thompson." It was Sarah, a nurse he had often seen during late-night shifts. The community hailed her as a devoted caregiver, but he had never grasped the depth of her strength until this moment. He felt his heart race as he learned the breathtaking truth: she had rushed to save him from the wreckage. Her steady hands pulled him from the abyss, a quiet hero amidst the chaos of the emergency room, but then came the bombshell that shattered all preconceived expectations. Sarah was pregnant with their child. A rush of emotions flooded through Jake: confusion, guilt, and a flicker of joy. He had envisioned a future of high-rises and promotions, not this unexpected detour. Meanwhile, Sarah grappled with the sting of judgment from their tight-knit community. Whispers now replaced the praise, each glance feeling like a dagger aimed at her already fragile confidence. Together, they began to navigate the aftermath, their worlds colliding in a flurry of messy emotions. The hospital break room buzzed with hushed whispers each time Sarah walked in. Jake felt a twinge of guilt as he saw the way the townsfolk, a community that once embraced their story, could frown upon her, the single mother facing the consequences of their unexpected union. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days passed, they leaned on the love of their friends and the understanding of their community. They wrestled with the looming question: what does it mean to redefine family? Could love blossom amidst the chaos? With every tick of the clock, hope flickered even in its quietest moments. Just when it seemed they might find a way forward, a sudden request from Jake's family shattered that fragile peace. They wanted him to return home, to make the sacrifices they deemed indispensable for success. As he stood at that pivotal crossroads, careers and dreams at odds with heart and family, he felt the weight of expectations pressing down. With Sarah by his side, he had never felt more uncertain. Would they step into the unknown together? Or would fear dictate their fates? The answers loomed ahead, hiding in the shadows. Jake felt the cold air bite at his cheeks as he stepped outside the hospital, the snow still thickening around him. Each flake was a reminder of the turmoil swirling in his mind. He rubbed his temples, a part of him wanting to flee from it all, the weight of his family's expectations pressing hard against his chest. Sarah stood beside him, her presence warm amidst the winter chill. She offered a tentative smile, a flicker of hope in their uncertain world. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, her eyes filled with shared worry. Jake sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I think I need to talk to my parents. They won't understand this situation, but I can't just walk away from my family." "You shouldn't have to choose between us and them, Jake." Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the crack in her facade. Our baby needs both of us." He nodded slowly, but doubt crept in like the cold, chilling every bit of optimism. He had always been the good son, the one who chased success. Now, a part of him longed for a simpler, quieter life, free of obligation. What if they try to convince me to forget all this? To come back home, back to that world? Sarah stepped closer, her heartbeat echoing the tension between them. Then you need to decide what matters more, their vision for your life or your own. That question hovered in the air, heavy and unsettling. Jake took a deep breath. I should go. But I don't want to leave you alone like this. We're in this together, she reassured him, though her voice held an undercurrent of fear. I'll be okay here, Jake. Just be honest with them. With yourself. He wanted to be brave for both of them, but uncertainty gnawed at him. This could jeopardize the future he had been so certain of. But the thought of abandoning Sarah and their child felt even worse. As he made his way to his car, Jake's phone buzzed. It was his mother. Jake. We need to discuss your future. Your father and I have a plan for you. The words felt like chains, heavy and suffocating. I'll be home soon, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. When he finally arrived at his family's warm, sprawling home, it felt both inviting and intimidating. The familiar scent of baked goods wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the chaos within him. His mother greeted him with hugs that felt too tight, her joy infectious yet stifling. Jake. We've missed you. I can tell you're finally ready to make some real decisions for your future, like moving back. She chirped, oblivious to the turmoil in his heart. Mom, I need to talk about something important. It's about my life here in Maplewood. As he hesitated, the door creaked open, and his father stepped into view. A man of stature with a gaze that carried the weight of expectations. Jake's heart raced at seeing him. Dad, Jake started, but his father interrupted. Let us discuss your career, son. Jobs in the city are waiting for you. Your future demands that you step up. The reality of what lay ahead consumed Jake. There, on the threshold between parental duty and personal realities, he knew he had to find his voice. But would he have the courage to speak up for himself, and for Sarah and their child? Inside him, a storm brewed. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a reckoning, one that could shatter everything if he didn't tread carefully. Behind him, the soft jingle of a baby rattle echoed ominously. Would he push forward, embracing the unpredictability of love and family, or would he fall back into the safety of his old life? As he looked at his father, his heart thudded louder than ever. The moment of truth was at hand. Jake's throat tightened as he faced the two figures he had admired and feared all his life. His father stood tall, looking every bit the successful man he was, sharp suit, confident posture, a look that demanded quick decisions. His mother's eyes sparkled with unconditional love, yet they brimmed with expectations that felt like shackles. Dad, Jake's voice faltered. He cleared his throat, gathering his resolve. I need to talk about Sarah. And our baby. His father's brow furrowed, confusion racing across his face. Sarah? Are you? Oh, you must be joking. You don't mean actually, I do. Jake stepped forward, his heart thumping against his ribs. I'm going to be a father. The air turned thick. His mother gasped, placing a hand over her mouth as if she were trying to catch her breath. Jake took a step back, momentarily lost in the swirl of their reactions. Jake, this isn't funny, his father said, shaking his head. You're throwing away your potential for some fantasy. No, Dad. Jake felt a rush of emotion. The urge to defend his choices surged through him. This isn't a fantasy. This is real. Sarah and I love each other, and we're having a baby together. We need to be a family. Having a child doesn't make you a family, his father replied, harsh and unyielding, his voice echoing in Jake's mind. It's about building a life, creating security. You can't do that living here, raising a child with what? A job you arranged for me? Jake interrupted, the frustration rolling off him like steam. I want to make my own choices. For my family. For Sarah. For our child. Silence filled the room, the kind that pressed down on all of them like snow piling up outside. His mother's eyes darted between father and son, her distress palpable. Jake, she's not the kind of girl we imagined for you, she finally managed to stammer, her voice trembling. What kind of girl do you want me to choose, Mom? Jake's voice cracked, raw with emotion. One who doesn't love me. One who fits your plan but doesn't fit my heart. I can't live that way anymore. Living with dreams doesn't pay the bills. His father shot back, crossing his arms. You're being selfish. You need to think about your future. Maybe I'm finally thinking about the right future. Jake exclaimed, anger flaring. If I follow your vision, I'm going to resent everyone. Including you. His father's face hardened as he stared at his son. You're young. You don't understand the implications of your decisions. This isn't just about you. It's about being responsible. And what's responsible to you? Jake fired back, feeling tears prick at his eyes. Sacrificing my happiness for a career. Denying Sarah and our baby. Jake, his mother stepped closer, voice soft but urgent, we just want what's best for you. What's best for me? He shouted. Or what's best for you? The weight of their expectations bore down on him, but something shifted inside Jake. He was tired of hiding, tired of pretending he could fit into their mold. He wanted more freedom, family, love. Let me tell you something, he said, his voice lower now, but steady. I'm choosing my family. I'm choosing Sarah. You can't make me choose otherwise. A heavy silence followed. The room felt charged, every breath a silent plea for understanding. Jake's heart raced as he realized he had taken a step toward a new reality, one that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Jake, think this through. His father's voice was edged with concern, but it only fueled Jake's determination. No. Every fiber of his being pushed back against the pressure. I'm done thinking about what you want. It's time to live my own life. I have a family to care for. Jake turned toward the door, a rush of courage fueling his steps. Just then, the sound of a soft whimper interrupted the tension. His mother whispered, "You can't just walk away." He halted, heart racing as he felt the weight of his decision settle in. I'm not walking away. I'm finally choosing. With that, he stepped out, the biting cold of the evening air wrapping around him like a shroud of newfound hope. Behind him, the echoes of his family's disbelief faded away, and he felt a flicker of determination ignite within. As he climbed into his car, thoughts of Sarah filled his mind. She needed him. He needed her. Together, they could find a way through this, but as he drove away from that familiar house, uncertainty clawed at him. Was he truly ready for everything this new life involved? Or had he set the stage for his own regrets? The road ahead blurred with falling snow as he gripped the steering wheel tightly, heart racing, wondering what the next step would lead him into. Would they triumph over adversity together, or would the weight of his past pull him back into sad familiarity? The snow whipped against the windshield as Jake drove, the world outside a blur of white. Anxiety coiled in his stomach like a spring ready to snap. His phone buzzed with messages, but he ignored them, focusing instead on the road and the growing knot of determination within him. Thoughts of Sarah spun in his mind, overriding all other worries. Sarah was his anchor, and now, more than ever, she would need him. He recalled her smile, the way her laughter filled him with warmth, even in the bleakest times. But as excitement bubbled inside, a new fear took root. Was he really cut out to be a father? Did he even have the skills to provide for them? The moment he pulled up to Sarah's apartment, a mix of hope and uncertainty washed over him. He hesitated in the driver's seat, the key still in the ignition. The street lamp flickered, casting shadows across the parking lot. Would she be happy to see him? Would she understand his fears? With a deep breath, he stepped out into the cold night. The air was sharp against his skin. He hurried up the steps, eager to lose himself in the warmth of their shared ambitions. As he reached her door, a wave of emotions threatened to drown him. He knocked, each rap sounding like a drum beat in his chest. After a moment that felt like an eternity, the door swung open, revealing Sarah. Her eyes lit up at the sight of him, but there was a hint of worry etched on her face. "Jake! You're here!" she exclaimed, stepping aside to pull him into a hug. "I had to see you," he murmured, holding her tightly, feeling the familiar comfort of her warmth against him. In that moment, everything outside faded: the pressures of his parents' expectations, the snowstorm raging beyond the door, the fear of the future. It was just them, and together they could face anything. "I was worried," she said softly, looking up at him. "You left so suddenly." "I had to tell them," Jake replied, searching her eyes for understanding. "I can't let them dictate my life anymore." Her expression softened, and he could see the weight of his decision reflected back at him. "And?" she prompted gently. "And I chose you, Sarah." "I chose us," he said, feeling the words resonate with a strength he didn't know he possessed. "About the baby, I'm ready." A tear escaped her eye, and she smiled through it. "You have no idea how much that means to me." He pulled her close again, drowning in the relief and love that enveloped them. But he couldn't escape the gnawing worry that slipped in alongside joy. "But do you think we're ready for this? For everything? Together we can figure it out," she whispered, her voice steady, bolstering his resolve. "We'll take it one step at a time." Jake smiled back at her, but inside, the uncertainty still lingered. Could they really make it work? The kind of life he envisioned felt so daunting and fragile. As they settled onto the couch, the familiar couch that held whispers of late-night dreams and plans, Sarah lay her head on his shoulder. "Tell me what happened," she said, her fingers tracing small patterns on his arm, sending warmth through him. "Dad was..." Jake paused, searching for the right words. "Strict. My parents just don't understand. They think they know what's best for me, but it's not what I want. I'm scared they'll try to manipulate my life again. I just want to be there for you. Jake, being there for me is what counts," she said, lifting her head to meet his gaze. Her certainty sparked a flicker of confidence in his heart. But then, as he thought about the baby, the anxiety rushed back. "What if I mess this up? What if I can't provide?" "None of that matters right now," she reassured him. "What really matters is that we both love each other and we're ready to face whatever comes our way." "Yeah," but he trailed off, the words stuck in his throat as he considered the future. "Let's just focus on today," Sarah urged, squeezing his hand, but even as the night unfolded, Jake could not shake the feeling that their decisions were just starting to ripple out into a world far beyond their control. Then, a notification popped up on his phone, startling him. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from his father: "We need to talk." The knot in his stomach tightened at the thought. "What do you think he wants?" he asked, dread creeping in. Sarah's eyes bore into his with understanding. "Whatever it is, it won't change who we are and what we're building together." But as Jake stared at the glowing screen, a cold wariness gripped him. Would confronting the past bring them closer to their future, or would it unravel all their hopes? He breathed in deeply, acutely aware that every choice now mattered. He walked away from one battle, but a new one was brewing. Was he truly prepared for everything that lay ahead, and what would it mean for their baby? The shadows in the room deepened, and with each tick of the clock, Jake realized that the conversation with his father was only the beginning. Would it be a path leading toward understanding, or yet another attempt to tear apart the family he was trying to build? Jake stared at the screen, anxiety creeping in like the winter chill outside. He could almost hear his father's voice in his head, the same tone he had used for years, the disapproving notes wrapped in hollow expectations. "We need to talk." The phrase felt like a loaded gun. Sarah noticed his tension and gently squeezed his hand. "You okay?" "Just wondering what he wants," Jake replied, forcing a smile. But his heart raced. The tension of unresolved matters felt heavier than the storm outside. "Whatever it is, Jake, we'll face it together," she said, her voice a blend of certainty and comfort. Her trust in him anchored his wavering resolve, but he couldn't shake off the shadow of doubt about what lay ahead. "You know how he is," Jake said, pulling away slightly to rub his temples. "He thinks he can control everything. I don't want him meddling in our lives, especially now." "Then don't let him," Sarah countered, her words sharp yet reassuring. "You've already made your choice. He can't dictate who you are." Jake felt the sting of truth in her statement. What if this is just the beginning of a long battle? With a soft smile, she leaned closer. "Every battle has its risks, Jake. But we could also find peace. It all depends on how you choose to respond." He nodded, a small light of hope flickering inside him. "Yeah, you're right. It's just this whole thing with the baby. It changes everything." Sarah's eyes sparkled with affection as she brushed a stray hair behind her ear. "We can handle it, one step at a time. Focus on the love we have and the little one growing inside you." The last phrase made his heart flutter, but it also wrapped him in a soft haze of fear. Jake's phone vibrated again, drawing his attention back. Another message, this time a voicemail. He held his breath as he considered whether to listen to it now. "Maybe it's something important," Sarah suggested, her curiosity mingling with concern. "Or just more pressure from him," he muttered. But curiosity gnawed at him, pressing him to click play. The sound of his father's voice filled the room, and he felt the familiar tangle of frustration and apprehension twist in his gut. "Jake, I just want to talk. I want what's best for you. Please, meet me at the diner tomorrow at noon." He set the phone down, the weight of that request hanging heavy in the air. "Noon tomorrow. The diner." Sarah inhaled, sensing the apprehensive shift in the atmosphere. "What's it like there?" "Worn-out booths, the smell of coffee and grease pretty much the same as always. It's where they think families reconcile, I guess," he replied, the sarcasm slipping through his lips despite the seriousness of the moment. "Sounds like the perfect setting for a heart-to-heart," she said, trying to lighten the mood. "Yeah, except I'm not up for a heart-to-heart where I'm the bad guy." He felt frustration bubbling within him. "I shouldn't be dragging you into this." "You're not dragging me into anything," she insisted, gaze steady. "We're in this together, Jake." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, they both understood the Ferris wheel of emotion spinning around them. Fear, love, uncertainty. The darkness felt less daunting with her beside him. "I just wish I could fast forward to a time when everything's figured out," he said quietly, his uncertainty resurfacing. "I know," she murmured, leaning closer as if bridging that narrowing gap of fears. "But right now, we need to take the steps to create that future. You answering your dad's call could be part of it. Or it could blow everything to pieces," he replied sharply. "Or it could bring unexpected insights. You don't know until you try." He took a breath, feeling caught between the future he wanted and the past that haunted him. What if it's not worth it? Jake's phone buzzed again, and he bit his lip, glancing at the screen. Another message from his father made his heart thump. "Let me know your decision." The weight of the moment pressed against him. Could he face this discussion? As the wind howled outside, he glanced at Sarah, feeling the warmth of her presence wrap around him. "Do you think it's possible for him to change? To see me for who I am now?" "I believe people can change, but it starts with how you stand up for yourself," she said, her voice filled with clear resolve. "It starts right now." Jake felt the rising tide of hope and fear mixing in his chest. Was he ready to face the truth of his family's expectations and finally carve out his own path? The ticking clock counted off the seconds, each one reminding him that tomorrow's meeting was inevitable. Just as he decided what to do next, another buzz pulled him from his thoughts. Life was moving faster than he wanted, and he wasn't sure if he liked where it was headed. What would happen at noon tomorrow? Would he be able to voice his choices without falling back under pressure? As he looked into Sarah's hopeful eyes, he promised himself he'd at least try. But deep down, he feared that the meeting could unravel everything they hoped to build. And as he sat there, the lines blurring between dread and anticipation, Jake realized this was just the beginning of a journey he never wanted to take. The morning light broke through the gray clouds, casting a pale glow across the kitchen as Jake stumbled into his daily routine. The coffee maker chugged softly, filling the space with a comforting aroma, but it did little to ease the tightness in his chest. The clock on the wall ticked like a countdown timer, each second laced with the weight of what awaited him. "Hey, sleepyhead," Sarah chirped, her voice light, but her gaze was full of understanding. She busied herself at the table, packing a small lunch. "You okay? You look a little tense." "Just thinking about today," he admitted, pouring himself a cup of strong coffee. The warmth of the mug seeped into his palms, but it offered little solace for his racing thoughts. "Just remember, it's one step at a time. You got this," she reassured him, albeit with a tone that suggested she too was grappling with the uncertainty of the day. Jake nodded, feeling the swell of her encouragement urging him forward, yet the doubts churned in his mind. What if his father hadn't changed? What if they walked back into old battles, old wounds that had yet to heal? "Can you remind me again what I should say?" he asked, trying to mask his apprehension with humor. "Just be honest. Speak from your heart." "No more hiding," Sarah said, her eyes steady on his, as if her gaze alone could fortify him against the storm he was about to confront. "Right," he said, though the word felt hollow. Picking up the lunch Sarah had prepared, he saw the small note tucked inside, "I believe in you. You're not alone." The words wrapped around his heart like a warm embrace. As they headed out, the air was crisp and alive, the city awakening around them. People hurried along the sidewalks, each lost in their own worlds. Jake felt like he was moving in slow motion, the weight of this morning lingering heavily on his shoulders. The diner came into view, a retro fixture on the corner of the street, familiar yet intimidating. It had always served as a backdrop to family milestones and conversations that turned into arguments. "All right, here we go," he said, more to himself than to Sarah. "Remember, just breathe," Sarah whispered as they parked. They walked inside, and the smell of greasy breakfast food instantly reminded him of childhood weekends spent here with his family. He spotted his father seated at a booth, a plate of eggs and toast in front of him, staring intently at his phone as if it held the secrets of their impending conversation. "Nice place," Jake mumbled, sarcasm slipping through his lips as they approached. His father looked up, the surprise in his eyes quickly morphing into a mask of neutrality. "Jake, you came." His father's voice was steady, but Jake felt the underlying tension crackling between them. "Hey, Dad," he replied, trying to keep his voice even. They slid into the booth opposite one another, Jake's pulse racing in time with the ticking clock on the wall. "I didn't think you'd come." "You wanted to talk," Jake said, more an accusation than a question. The unspoken words hung between them like a thick fog. His father leaned forward, earnestness creeping into his expression. "I'm tired of arguing, Jake. I just want to understand what is happening with you and with Sarah." Jake's heart did a flip. What did that mean? Were they finally moving toward clarity, or just shifting gears to another argument? "Things have changed, Dad. I'm not who you think I am," he said, his voice steady now. Before his father could respond, the waitress came over, bringing their order with a warm smile. Her presence provided a brief distraction. But as she poured coffee into their cups, Jake focused back on what mattered most. "I'll always be your son, but I need you to support me, not control me," Jake continued, feeling a mixture of defiance and vulnerability. His father fell silent, the layers of years of communication unraveling in the air between them. Jake held his breath, wondering if they could ever find common ground or if this moment would send them spiraling out of sync once more. The air grew thick with unspoken thoughts. Jake's nerves tightened as he waited for his father's reaction. Would he push back? Would he finally see Jake as his own man? As the seconds stretched on, Sarah reached over, her fingers brushing against his. Her warmth radiated through him like a lifeline, giving him the strength to stand firm in the shifting tides of family dynamics. Then his father spoke, his voice halting yet strange. Was it regret? I know things are different now, Jake. Suddenly, there was a shift in the air, a crackle of change that felt almost electric. Jake's heart raced, he sensed the potential for something new, something greater in their relationship. But just then, there was a loud crash from the kitchen area, breaking their eye contact and jolting Jake back to reality. Did you hear that? Jake's stomach twisted with anticipation. As he turned to see what had happened, he couldn't shake the feeling that moment was just a prelude to something even larger, something that could upend everything he thought he knew about himself and his family. Would this morning reveal the truth they all needed to face? Or would the ghosts of the past reclaim center stage, leaving them all lost in familiar patterns? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment pressing around him. What did the future hold? Only time would tell. The crash echoed through the diner, a sharp sound slicing through the tense atmosphere like a knife. Jake turned in unison with Sarah and his father, eyes wide, searching for the source. The clattering of dishes and muffled voices washed over him, adding to the chaos of his thoughts. A server had dropped a tray full of plates in the far corner of the diner, and as she knelt to gather the mess, a few patrons chuckled. The moment felt both absurd and oddly grounding. Jake managed a small smile at the sight of her bright orange apron, a splash of color against the diner's drab decor. His father's gaze shifted from the scene back to Jake, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Are you sure you're ready for this? He asked softly, his voice barely rising above the din. The question hung in the air, heavy with inklings of both doubt and concern. I came here to talk. Jake's response was firmer than he felt, fueled by the warmth of Sarah's hand still resting on his. You really want to know what's going on with me? Yeah, his father breathed, a hint of desperation mingling with genuine curiosity. But I also want to be sure we do this right. Jake's body tensed again at the suggestion of doing it right. He searched his father's face for understanding, for empathy that felt too far out of reach. What does that even mean? He asked, his voice edged with irritation. Are we supposed to act like everything's fine when it isn't? His father leaned back, a sigh escaping his lips. I know I haven't always handled things well. I'll admit that. I just want to control things, Jake intervened, frustration boiling over. You don't see me anymore, Dad. You see who you want me to be. The waitress returned to the booth with a fresh pot of coffee, and her intrusion momentarily stilled the conversation. Jake's heart raced, and he took a moment to gather his thoughts as he poured, careful not to spill. Maybe, his father said after a beat, his voice lower. Maybe I'm just scared. The words hit Jake squarely in the chest. They were raw and unguarded, laying bare something he had never considered. His father was human, a man struggling just like him. Scared of what? Jake pressed, surprising himself with the softness in his tone. Of not knowing how to help you, his father admitted, his eyes finally meeting Jake's. Of losing you or pushing you away. The vulnerability between them was palpable, a fragile thread that both held them accountable and bound them closer together. Jake was reminded of all the years that had stacked between them, the grievances and misunderstandings that separated them like an invisible wall. But at that moment, Jake felt a glimmer of hope. Dad, Jake said, you can start by listening. Just hear me. Just once. His father nodded, and Jake could see the faintest flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. But just as the atmosphere began to shift towards something softer, the loud crash came again, not from the kitchen this time but from the booth behind them. An older couple had been startled in their seats, and the man had tipped over his chair in surprise. As murmurs spread through the diner, Jake's heart sank. How quickly would the moment slip away again? Are you okay? His father asked the couple, genuine concern painting his features. Jake couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. He caught Sarah's eye, and she smiled back an unspoken promise that they wouldn't be pushed aside again, that they would keep fighting for this moment, for this connection. But as laughter bubbled up from around the diner, Jake felt the clock ticking again, reminding him of what still lay ahead. His mind raced at the thought of secrets he hadn't yet revealed, and anxieties yet unshared. "Dad, there is something else," Jake began, his resolve reigniting as he grappled with the significance of this moment. But the sound of the diner door swung open, startling the pair, as a woman stepped inside. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It couldn't be. He blinked, hoping to shake the feeling of recognition that sparked fear and anticipation all at once. Could she really be here? With his heart pounding, Jake braced himself. The familiar scent of coffee faded into the background, and the buzz of voices turned into a resonating silence inside his head. Would this unexpected arrival change everything, or would it only deepen the divide that had already taken root? Jake's heart drummed a relentless beat as he prepared for whatever revelation lay ahead. Jake's breath quickened, his chest tightening as the woman stepped fully into the diner. She had a presence that demanded attention, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, framing a face that was both familiar and foreign. It was as if life itself had paused to let her in, the sound of chatter fading to a mere whisper in his ears. "Mom." The word escaped his lips before he could process it, a mix of disbelief and hope coloring his tone. He hadn't seen her in so long, years filled with silence, a vacuum created by unresolved hurt. The moment hung in the air, charged with unspoken words. His father's expression shifted. A mix of surprise and caution passed over his features. He seemed caught between recognition and confusion, like he was grappling with the feelings stirred up by her sudden appearance. The diner looked almost surreal in that instant, the laughter and clattering of dishes fading into muted echoes. Jake's heart raced as he felt Sarah squeeze his hand tighter than before, grounding him in reality as he kept his eyes locked on the woman before him. "And my son," she finally stammered, her voice trembling with emotion. It was a voice he had yearned to hear, yet it was wrapped in insecurity. She approached the booth slowly, each step heavy with memory. "Why are you here?" Jake's own voice felt foreign to him, edged with both anger and relief. There was a whirlwind of emotions inside him churning like a tempest, battling for release. I didn't know if I could," she sighed, her gaze drifting to the floor, searching for the right words. "I've thought of you every day, Jake. I'd like to talk." Jake felt a flicker of anger flare up. Talk? After all this time? But that frustration was tempered by a heart that longed for connection, eager to bridge the gap created by years apart. All those feelings of abandonment, confusion, resentment, they danced wildly in his mind. And just as quickly as they surged, a small seed of hope began to take root. His father, caught in the throes of his own conflict, finally spoke, his voice unsteady. "We need to do this all together." The words hung heavy in the air, weighted with the gravity of shared responsibilities and lingering hurt. Jake shifted his gaze, taking Sarah's reassuring smile for strength. She had become his anchor in this storm, her presence reminding him of all they had faced together. As complicated as his feelings for his mother were, he sensed he couldn't face this alone. The older couple behind them had settled back into their own conversations, oblivious to the whirlwind of emotions swirling in the booth. But Jake noticed an air of curiosity spreading among the other diners, heads turning curiously, eyes darting glances. It was a drama that drew them in and, just for a moment, Jake felt vulnerable and exposed under their scrutiny. "Let's just sit down and breathe," Jake finally said, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. He motioned for her to take a seat across from him. As she slid in next to his father, an invisible thread stretched to connect them, tinged with the potential for healing. Sarah's grip loosened, but her presence remained steady at his side, a comforting weight, reminding him he wasn't alone in this. As Jake took a moment to gather himself, words surfaced in his mind, clamoring to escape. "What do you think you can say that will make this better?" He challenged gently, the hurt of memories lacing his tone. The question hung thick, pregnant with anticipation that something profound could emerge, a turning point in their fractured relationship. His mother looked at him, determination glowing in her eyes. "I want to explain everything." Jake felt the weight of his past pressing down hard, memories of missed birthdays, unanswered calls, and the emptiness that filled their old home. But could understanding break through that pain? As the moment stretched on, Jake leaned in, curiosity battling his apprehension. He needed to know if there was a path forward. Would this conversation hold the answers he longed for? But before she could respond, the clattering of the kitchen door opening interrupted them, a figure stepping through the noise, disrupting the fragile atmosphere. A chill ran down Jake's spine as he recognized the newcomer, his heart dropping like a stone. Another piece of his puzzle he never expected to confront. What would this new twist mean for their fragile reunion? Would it tear them apart or bring them closer? Only time and what was shared in the next moments would tell. Jake's heart raced, the blood pounding in his ears as the newcomer approached the booth. He recognized the tall figure immediately, a sturdy build and a familiar face, one that had haunted his thoughts during the darkest nights. It was Richard, his mother's companion from long ago. The air thickened around them. No longer was it just about hurt and searching for answers, now there was the burden of a shared history, one that Jake had never fully understood. "Richard." Jake's voice faltered slightly, caught between surprise and something deeper, something that stung. "Jake," Richard said, his tone steady, but the weight of the moment pressed down on them both. It was hard to reconcile the man he saw in front of him now with the shadows of the past. Richard had been part of the very reason his mother had left. As if sensing the tension, the older couple nearby shifted in their seats, straining to catch a glimpse of the unfolding drama. "Why are you here?" Jake's voice was sharper than he intended, a protective barrier rising with the heat of his emotions. Richard inhaled slowly, his eyes darting between Jake, his mother, and finally settling on the table. "I came to check on her," he said, his voice firm, but not unkind. "She needed someone, and after everything," I thought. He trailed off, uncertainty slipping into his expression. "For what? To relive the past?" Jake shot back, anger bubbling beneath the surface. He felt Sarah's hand slip back into his, a reminder to breathe, to stay grounded. "No," Richard replied quickly. "I came to support her. You may think I don't care, but I do. I want to help her." His gaze shifted back to Jake's mother, whose expression was a mixture of gratitude and regret. Jake's eyes locked on hers. "Is that true? You brought him here?" The question hung in the air, a note of betrayal laced with an urgent need for clarity. "I didn't ask him to come," she whispered, her voice barely audible, as if afraid of the confession. "He came on his own. I've been so lost, Jake. I thought I could find my way back to you, to this feeling, but I didn't know who to turn to when it all fell apart." "Lost," Jake echoed, bitterness spilling from his lips. "And what have I been for all these years?" She opened her mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come. The truth was too raw, and her fragility was palpable in the tight space of the booth. Richard shifted, stepping forward. "Jake, I know what you're feeling. It's not easy to forgive, but holding on to that anger won't help anyone." "How would you know?" Jake retorted, the bitterness growing like a thorn. "You were part of the reason this happened." "Enough." Jake's father finally interjected, a voice filled with authority. "We all know this is messy, and pain is right here in front of us. But we need to focus, not fight. We have a chance to talk, to understand what?" Jake spat, "That she left when I needed her. That the choices she made brought us to this moment. You can't just erase the past." Jake's mother flinched at his words, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "No, I can't erase it, and I wouldn't want to. All I want is for you to know I've realized my mistakes. I am here to try and fix this now. No more running." Just then, a siren wailed from outside, cutting through the tension, reminding them of the world outside where life continued despite their unresolved feelings. Uncertainty filled the air around the booth, the stakes felt higher than ever. Let us talk, Richard suggested, his voice softer this time. Without accusations. Just honesty. We need to clear the air if we're ever going to heal. We're here now, together. Jake felt the clenching in his chest ease just slightly. There was still a long way to go, but the possibility of resolution shimmered in the distance. But what was the truth? And could they withstand the revelations lying just beneath the surface? As he glanced at Sarah, her supportive smile gave him a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this conversation could lead to healing. But little did Jake realize, hidden within their tangled stories was a secret awaiting. Discovery, one that could change everything. What would be revealed in the moments ahead? Would it shatter everything he thought he knew or build a bridge to forgiveness? As Jake sat in the booth, time suddenly felt fluid, the tension melding into something different. The air was thick with unsaid words, each person trapped within their own pain. Sarah's reassuring grip on his hand contrasted with the storm brewing inside Jake's mind. How did they get to this crossroads, and could they actually transform this mess into understanding and healing? "Mom, if you're really here to mend things, we need truth," Jake said, his voice trembling slightly. He felt all eyes on him, anticipation merged with fear. The memories of abandonment loomed heavily, like ghosts that had haunted him all these years. "I never wanted to leave you," his mother began, her voice faltering, barely a whisper as tears glimmered in her eyes. "It was never about you. I was lost in my own way, and I made choices that hurt everyone." The admission hung like a lifeline or a weight too heavy to bear. "What choices?" Jake pressed, the desperation creeping into his tone. "You left without a word. I was just a kid. I needed you, Mom." Richard shifted uncomfortably, as if he knew the role he played in this tangled web. "It's true, no one had the answers. Not her, not me, not even your father," he added gently. Jake's father, who had remained mostly silent, looked at Jake with a newfound urgency. "But we can still find clarity. We need to talk, to listen, as hard as it is, together." Jake swallowed hard, heart still racing. He realized that staying connected was a choice they all had to make. "If we can't be honest, then what's the point?" he said, daring to speak up for what he always wanted, a real connection. "Then let us begin," his mother said, her voice steadied by resolve. "I want to be transparent about everything, starting with why I left." Jake's breath caught in his throat. There it was. The beginning of the unraveling. Would it bring forth healing or deeper fractures? "I thought I was being selfish by wanting something for myself," she started, and it spiraled into a mess. The guilt was unbearable. "I never stopped loving you or thinking about you. You were my light, but I thought I could light my own path, too, without hurting you." Jake felt a flicker of empathy stirring amidst the hurt. The young boy inside him, cradling that abandonment, was inching closer to understanding. "Need was a strange thing for me," she continued, tears welling up. "I pushed away from Richard, thinking I needed to protect you from the scars that would never heal. Richard stepped in again, but she was just as scared as you, Jake. I was part of that mix. She believed leaving was her best option. Does it make it right?" Jake's question was sharp, the wound still fresh. "No," they chorused, their heads nodding in understanding, and in that moment, Jake felt the weight of years of silence unraveling. Could they start again? Understand each other? "Mom, you coming back now won't fix everything, but I want to try with you," Jake said, pushing through the difficult emotions rising within him. A broken smile flickered across his mother's face, brimming with hope. "I know it'll take time, but I want to rebuild with you, Jake. To be present now, for everything ahead." Suddenly, Jake's phone vibrated, disrupting that fragile moment. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from Sarah. "I believe in this moment. You are stronger than you think." Tears stung his eyes at the touch of her unwavering support. He glanced over at her, and her smile radiated comfort. "Let us face things head on. Together, he affirmed, leaning back in his seat, allowing the weight of the moment to settle. And the baby? His father asked softly, a hint of concern knitting his brows. I want to be a father who is present. I want it to be different for my child than it was for me. Hell, he had stumbled before, but as he faced his family, his mother, Richard, and his father, he felt more like a man than he ever had. And as they shared quiet smiles, Jake understood, healing required steps through hard truths and messy emotions, but each step he took for himself and for Sarah was one plotted toward the horizon of hope. Let's make it real, Jake finally said, the words rolling off his tongue with growing determination. An unspoken bond formed around their table, hearts intertwining with every moment. I'll step up to what it means to be a father, he stated, his voice emboldened. But I'll need your support. They all nodded, a fragile but palpable agreement in the air. The messiness of their history was still present, and the weight of expectations loomed overhead, but they had each other. As the taste of fresh coffee lingered in the air and the quiet chatter of the diners returned, Jake felt the first flickers of hope. He was ready to fight for love, ready to face the shadows, for both Sarah and the baby. Outside, the storm began to lighten. Jake knew it was time to embrace the unexpected, a new chapter where he would seek understanding, love, and a family of his own. As he locked eyes with Sarah, her radiance beaming back at him, Jake whispered, "We'll figure this out together." And better yet, they would. This was their moment to rise above and transform every uncertain crevice into a story filled with courage, family, and love. Now you have all the pieces, it's time to share it. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Only true fans know how much this matters. Don't wait not even one more second to share.